robocallers who made illegal healthcare-related robocalls. Because of this win, Scott Shapiro, Michael Theron Smith Jr., and Health Advisors of America can no longer make robocalls or work for or with companies that make robocalls in North Carolina. Stein's crusade against robocallers goes back to 2020. WSIC weather, partly cloudy overnight, a low around 66. Thursday, sunny with a high of 88. Thursday night will be mostly clear with a low of 66. Sunny for Friday through Sunday with highs in the mid to upper 80s. Mike Jackson, WSIC News.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Scoreboard here on WSIC. And as always, I'm your host, Joe Berg, streaming video live to Facebook, YouTube, WSICnews.com. And if you want to call in, 704-873-1400. We're going to talk a little NASCAR today as we prepare for the Watkins Glen race coming up. Talk a little bit about baseball, some NFL games tomorrow night. We have one game tomorrow night. And we had Hard Knocks last night. So we'll talk a little bit about that too towards the end of the show. So I stated yesterday that NASCAR was having a tire test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Oval. And while I think that they're going to stay with the road course for next year, it doesn't sound like NASCAR is completely eliminating the idea of the Cup cars going back on the oval. Here is what Senior VP of Competition Elton Sawyer had to say during an interview with Sirius XM.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Mike. I mean, we've had success the last 3 years with running the Indy combo, if you will, on the road course with our folks at IndyCar and our Xfinity Series. But we're there today. We were there yesterday doing a Goodyear tire test. I don't think there's any way to, not look at what we would do in the future with the oval. The 2024 schedule is not in place, but I think it is fair to say that is on the table. And we'll continue to, work closely with the folks at Indy. And if that's the right thing to do, then that's for our industry and for our fans and our broadcast partners, then I'm sure that's where we will land. But again, nothing's been finalized, but you just start, as you asked, you start to put those plans in place and getting our next gen car on the oval and getting Goodyear there and doing somewhat of a confirmation test and seeing how the tires react and so forth is kind of the steps in that direction.
So it seems like NASCAR is at least considering it. Now, they wouldn't have done the test had they not wanted to know if this is an option, obviously. But it's just interesting that they decide to put this information out there saying, yeah, there's a chance we go back to the oval. We're not going to say anything, but get your hopes up, basically, is what the message was that I was receiving there is, hey, we're testing on the oval. I know you want to see the cars back on the oval, so get excited for it. I don't know if I'm going to get too excited over this because NASCAR is known to drop the ball a little bit is the best phrasing that I can use right now for it. But nonetheless, it seems like they're at least considering it and trying to see if it is going to make sense. So would be cool to see the cars back on the oval next year. And remember, we haven't seen that in the next gen car yet. So that was one thing that he was talking about there is making sure we get the next gen car on the track to see how it handles, how the feel is, if it's manageable to make a tire to last that long because of all the load that's going to be put on the right front and left and right rear. But nonetheless, they are going to go ahead and try and test it. And maybe we'll get an announcement soon that says, hey, the Indy Oval is back on the schedule. I would love it. me personally, I think the Indy Oval is a great race. I don't think it can be well, now it can be a bad race. I think, man, this was a long time ago, but that year that they had the Brickyard 400 and there was a competition caution every like 15 or 20 laps because people kept blowing tires. Man, was that something. But anyway, they're going to try it again. I don't want them going on the road course there anymore. I think, especially this late in the regular season, if they're going to make the schedule kind of the same as it was, I don't think it makes sense to go to back-to-back road courses. It's the only time you do that. There's 7 of them on the schedule. There's plenty of space on the schedule to scatter around the road courses and not have back-to-back road courses. They don't do back-to-back super speedways. It's not like we're going to Daytona and then next week we go to Atlanta, do it all over again. No, they don't do that because they spread them out because there's not that many of them. Now, the 1.5 miles, they're doing better at spreading those around too. But man, a few years ago when half of the schedule was a 1.5 mile track, it was a little bit rough. It would be 1.5 miles after 1.5 miles and nobody could pass. And that's what we were dealing with until we got to these next-gen cars. A little bit of news out of NASCAR here. Well, okay, maybe not NASCAR news, but it's news that's going to be important in the terms of the NASCAR world. 888 Race Engineering is thrilled to announce the signing of Will Brown, who will join Red Bull Ampol Racing from 2024 on a 3-year deal. Huh? What? Was that English? No, it wasn't anything with American sports. This is supercars that I'm talking about, Australian supercars. Now we'll kind of pick up the pieces here and put this together. That announcement comes as the team has agreed to allow Shane Van Gisbergen to explore his dreams to race in overseas categories in 2024 and beyond. He has been released from his contract with 888 Race Engineering. So it sounds like we are all things go for SVG to come to NASCAR. The last that we heard about it was Trackhouse Racing, who he did drive the Project 91 car for, is trying to charter a third cup team for, or a third cup car for him to run full time. But it's looking like he's more than likely going to start his career in NASCAR in either trucks or Xfinity. Now, I don't know how long of a career he's going to be able to have in NASCAR because he is 34 years old. Now, we see drivers that are 38, 39, 40, mid-40s. So you can, race for a while, but starting in Cup in your mid-30s, he's a little bit behind the 8 ball here. Well, a lot of bit, actually. He ran the truck IRP race, but other than that, he's never run an oval. It was a great story when he won the Chicago road course, but if it was going to be Daytona, would he have won that race handedly? No, I don't think so. It's just because it was a street course. For the first time, NASCAR went to a street course, and SVG had like the most background out of anybody, besides maybe Jensen Button, but he wasn't in the kind of equipment that SVG was in. And he had street racing background, so he dominated the field. He didn't dominate at the Indianapolis road course because, well, it was just a normal road course. Now, I thought he was going to do a lot better because of how flat that track is. It's not similar to a street track in that sense because you have a lot more 90-degree turns, but in the fact that it's just flat and you're just kind of hoping to get the power down through every corner. That's what I thought was going to make SVG a little bit more of a threat this past weekend, but wasn't meant to be. He had a solid run in the top 10, but couldn't repeat what he did at Chicago. We will continue with a little bit of NASCAR talk when we return from the break here, and then we're going to get into the MLB. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to go to a quick break here, The Scoreboard, WSIC 105.9, 100.7 FM. I'm your host, Joe Berg, and we'll be right back after this.
Thought-provoking conversations and informed perspectives.
It's meant for everyday people to understand, and you don't have to stress about technical terms and stuff. They just say it like a real person.
WSIC News Talk Now.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Asheville native Kanan Cox is performing Friday, August 25th at Kane Center for the Arts. Get your tickets while they last. Show starts at 8 p.m. Visit canearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. Want to showcase your music skills? Richard's Coffee Shop and Military Museum in downtown Mooresville has their music jam sessions every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to noon. Richard's Coffee Shop, located in downtown Mooresville. For more info, visit welcomevets.com. Ever dreamed of seeing Freddie Mercury and Queen live? Absolute Queen, a Queen tribute, will be playing at Boatyard Eats in Cornelius Friday, August 18th. Tickets are $20 online. Enjoy live music and at a fun venue. Absolute Queen, Friday night at Boatyard Eats in Cornelius. To buy tickets, visit boatyardlkn.com. Ever wonder what Mooresville was like in 1873? The historic downtown walking tour is a self-guided tour that will take you on a stroll through Mooresville's past to learn about the history of the town. Featuring 18 stops, the tour begins and ends at the corner of Main Street and Center Avenue. It should take 1 hour to complete. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. What would it be like to play glow stick bingo? Come check out the Bingo Glow Party at the Statesville Civic Center. Tuesday, August 22nd, doors open at 6 p.m. All games will be played under blacklight. Glow stick bingo at the Statesville Civic Center. For more info, visit civiccenter.statesvillenc.net. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
I'm Dan Sutton with your WSIC forecast. For tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 66 and light northeast wind. Thursday, sunny with a high near 88 and southwest winds 5 to 8 miles per hour in the afternoon. Thursday night, mostly clear with a low around 66 and southwest winds around 6 miles per hour. Friday, sunny with a high near 88 and northwest wind.
Folks, you know Randy Marion sells vehicles the King of Price way, but did you know our service department? We service vehicles the King of Price way. We sell tires, we sell brakes, we sell batteries, we sell the maintenance. We help you keep your vehicle on the road safe, ready to drive, whatever the season is. Randy Marion service departments have you covered. Come see us today because, folks, again, you know we sell the King of Price way and we do service the King of Price way.
King of Price, RandyMarionStatesville.com.
Conversations that matter.
I gotta tell you, I'm afraid to even think about the next presidential election.
Led by you.
It's a mockery of American politics.
This is WSIC News Talk Now.
All right. We are back here on the Scoreboard. WSIC 105.9, 100.7 FM. And like I always say, streaming the video version to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. We're everywhere. You can find, we're global now. WSIC is now global. But we're very much local. And that reminds me, as we get into the school year here, I want people to be calling in and shouting out any high school athletes that are either doing really well, because I can't see everything. Like I've said, I can't see it all. I'm one person here. So if you have someone you want to shout out in high school sports, please call in. We'll make sure we give them some love and have a good time while doing it. Getting a little bit ahead of myself here. 704-873-1400. If you'd like to call in, if you have something to say, something you'd like to talk about, we are talking right now about NASCAR. And we're going to preview Watkins Glen because today is going to be the preview Watkins Glen show. We're going to go heavy on that here in this segment because tomorrow we're going to have a full hour of Panthers preview. So I'm going to give you my rundown of the season. We're going to go game by game, break this down, win-loss record, all that fun stuff, outcome, what to expect. We're going to have fun with it. And we're going to do Panthers, and we're going to talk about Bryce Young, obviously, and all the chaos that's going to ensue in the NFL season. But before we keep talking about NASCAR, we do have a caller on the line. So thank you, caller, for calling in. What's your name, and what do you got for me today?
Hi, this is Hope, and I've always wanted to call your show, but here's how we're going to call out the high school athletes, okay? Every single one of them. Not a special one, not this one. They're all special. It's got to be the funkiest darn time to even think about being an athlete in high school at this point. And we're going to just, from me to them, I wasn't Miss Athlete, but you know what? More power to anyone who's going to go ahead and just follow their hearts about that choice in their life.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we are going to talk about pretty much every school in the area as the seasons pick up, but I wanted to make sure that I get other people involved in this too. So, if somebody has a family member that they wanted to shout out, we got to make sure we're getting the community involved here.
Well, I'm hoping this call could be a catalyst for that because there's a lot of hardworking parents, there's a lot of hardworking kids. Some of them have money and some of them don't, and that's why I wanted to shout out everybody because sometimes it's just the people who have the money and the glory. And there's just as good athletes out there that may not have the supported name, so to speak, as we say, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And like you said at the first part of what you were talking about there, it's hard to be a student athlete, especially nowadays. So being a student athlete and juggling school and practices and games and life, it's tough. So we definitely want to make sure everybody is involved in this and getting shouted out because, congratulations to you for making it work. It is hard to juggle school and sports and social life, all that stuff.
Well, I just want everyone to feel valued as their prowess that's able to come from their body and not have it be sanctioned by anybody but their own heart and God. Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah, well, thank you so much for calling in today. I appreciate it. And like I always say, if anybody else would like to call in and have something to say and something to talk about, whether it's local, regional, national, you want to talk about high school sports, you want to talk about how awesome it is to be a student athlete, how hard it is to be a student athlete, you can call in 704-873-1400. Let's go ahead and get back to this NASCAR preview here for Watkins Glen. I saw this last night, and I haven't been able to find it since. But I found this thing on NASCAR that took like an algorithm of some sorts and tried to say, this is what the finishing order this Sunday is going to be. And I thought, and it was like some third-party website, nobody big. I just kind of saw it in passing. So I had some fun with it, and this is what I do remember about it. I remember that this algorithm came up with the fact that Chase Elliott is going to win the race. Shocker. His favorite track, the place he got his first win at. So if we remember last year, Watkins Glen's race, it started out in the pouring rain. Well, not pouring rain, but the track was soaked. It was crazy for a little bit. And then we got a couple of late race cautions. And Chase Elliott dominated the race up until those last couple of cautions. Then he had Kyle Larson to deal with. Larson moves him out of the line a little bit. Kind of similar to what Denny Hamlin did to him, except the difference being there's no wall where Larson ran Chase Elliott out to. But nonetheless, he did run him wide out of the groove. Elliott falls back to fourth. Kyle Larson goes on to win that race. It's hard to predict who's going to win. You could have watched 70% of that race and said, Chase Elliott's got this. He's running away with it. It's in the bag. Nobody's got any competition for him. Well, a late race caution changes everything every time. And that's why I was really hoping that there wasn't going to be one of those late race cautions at Indy, because I knew if we got that, number one, McDowell was going to be in trouble, and number two, that Daniel Suarez guy, he was driving a little angry towards the end of that race after his pit crew let him down. But nonetheless, that's what the algorithm said. Chase Elliott. Now, I personally believe that Chase Elliott is going to win, just because of the simple fact that he has to. And I'm not exaggerating when I say he has to. If he doesn't win at Watkins Glen, I don't care if he wins the stage, wins stage 1, stage 2, and finishes second. The most points you can get without winning the race, he's still not going to be able to point his way in at Daytona. And I've talked about this yesterday. You can't bank on doing good at Daytona. You just cannot do it because it's chaos. Now, I believe Chase Elliott's going to get it done. So what I want to tell you about here is what that's going to do to the standings if Chase Elliott does get this win. Right now, Bubba Wallace sits as the last driver in. He's 28 points to the good. The next driver that doesn't have a win is Brad Keselowski, who's currently 143 points above the cut line. Safe to say, he's not going out on points. If Chase Elliott does win, that bumps him ahead of everybody without a win. So that puts him ahead of Bubba, Harvick, and Keselowski. And it knocks that playoff line down a little bit. It puts Bubba as the first driver out. And let's say Harvick and Keselowski don't swap positions in points. That puts Brad Keselowski as the cut line. Now, if this happens, there's absolutely no way that anybody else will be able to catch Brad in points. He's 143 to the good. You just can't make up that many points in one race. It's not possible. In 2 races even, for that matter. What I'm a little bit concerned about here is how crazy Daytona will be if we do have a Chase Elliott or a first-time winner of anybody for that matter. Not Chase Elliott, but Brad Keselowski and Kevin Harvick are separated by 2 points right now. Neither one of them has a win. If we have a first-time winner at Watkins Glen, like I said, it puts those two as the next 2 drivers in the playoffs on points. Well, they're separated by 2 points right now. And if there is another first-time winner, let's say, I don't know, Eric Almirola gets the win at Daytona. Well, that once again shoots him up in front of everybody without a win, including Harvick and Keselowski. And one of those two, whoever is ahead of the other, or whoever's behind the other, is going to get knocked out. And whoever's ahead is going to make the playoffs. That's going to be a very tight battle to watch for the next 2 weeks, because you need to get a little bit of separation if you're either Harvick or Keselowski, just in case. If I was a driver, I would be banking on Chase Elliott winning at Watkins Glen and putting himself in the playoffs. He's just too good there. And he's one of the best road course drivers. He's shown that year after year. We knew Chase Elliott was a great road course driver when he went headfirst into the turn 1 wall at Charlotte Roval and came back, drove past everybody, and still won the race. And then went and did burnouts right where he hit the wall. That's when we really knew. He was like, all right, Chase Elliott, best road course driver on the circuit. We get it. Move on. Well, you can't really just move on, because now you got to worry about him winning at Watkins Glen and locking himself into the playoffs. And this wouldn't be an issue had he not missed 6 races due to injury and 1 due to suspension. Had that not happened, he would definitely be in the points in the playoffs based on points right now. It'd be interesting to see where everything would line up. But we would be talking about a whole different cut line with all these different drivers, and things would be really interesting. Not that they're not already interesting, because they're heating up. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about baseball, because we had some games already today, some playoff race updates, and then we'll touch on the NFL. So make sure you stay tuned here to the Scoreboard, hosted by me, Joe Berg, on WSIC 105.9, 100.7 FM, and call in at 704-873-1400. We'll be back right after this.
Have your say.
Trusting the government to fix anything is a joke.
Be a part of the conversation.
We can't even trust the banks with our money.
This is WSIC News Talk Now. Local and North Carolina news now on the new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC News Talk Now.
I'm Mike Jackson, WSIC News. The Downtown Statesville Development Corporation, the Greater Statesville Chamber of Commerce, and Salisbury Developers LMY, Inc. hosted a ribbon-cutting ceremony and open house Tuesday for the Jenkins Building at 212 South Center Street. The $1.5 million adaptive reuse project features 2 retail spaces and 1 office space ranging from 1,350 to 1,500 square feet and 4 luxury apartments. And a newly released report from the American Clean Power Association details significant contributions being made in North Carolina from utility-scale clean energy projects. The report, Clean Energy Powers North Carolina, finds that nearly 10% of the state's energy capacity is currently generated through solar and wind projects. Clean energy capacity in the state now stands at 6,433 megawatts, enough to power 1.1 million homes. WSIC weather partly cloudy overnight, a low around 66. Thursday, sunshine with a high of 88. Thursday night will be mostly clear with a low of 66. Then Friday, sunny with a high of 88. Mike Jackson, WSIC News.
Eagle Rentals, making it easy for all your construction equipment rentals. They also have the generators, heaters, fans, painting equipment, floor equipment, pressure washing. They got it all over there, ready to help you with all of your jobs, making it easy. Eagle Rental also has those Husqvarna K1 Pace. Yes, the concrete saws, 93 volts. Get rid of all the fumes and all that stuff when you're working inside. Going electric at Eagle Rentals. Eagle Rentals in Troutman and in Statesville, making your work easy. Visit eaglerentals.com for more information. Go see them, eaglerentals.com.
Whatever the story,
We have to end our dependence on China.
have your say.
This debt crisis is going to set our economy back big time.
This is WSIC News Talk Now.
Welcome to a Bible Minute with Pastor Randy Mitchell from Temple Baptist Church in Statesville.
I recently watched a precious little 5-year-old girl play kickball for the very first time. On her first time up, she kicked the ball about 10 feet toward the pitcher. Everyone is screaming, "Run to first base!" A girl picks up the ball and throws it towards her. Accidentally, the ball hits her square in the face. Now the ball is soft and wasn't thrown very hard, but the shock instantly brings the little girl to tears. Not knowing what to do, she runs to her teacher, who takes her into her arms for comfort. Folks, we all experience similar things in life. We get hurt, we get scared, we get in shock when bad things happen. The book of Hebrews says, "Come boldly into the throne of grace that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need." When you're hurt or scared, run to the Lord.
Thanks for listening to a Bible Minute with Pastor Randy Mitchell here on WSIC.
After a lopsided scoreboard from the Panthers' preseason loss to the New York Jets, they now head to New York to face the Giants in the second preseason game after getting in 3 days of practice to work on what they saw last Saturday. I'm Jim Zoki with the Panthers update after this.
The only way to be your best self is with your best health. When you have a health partner who doesn't just treat part of you, they care for all of you. That's why more people prefer Atrium Health, because unrivaled care is easier, more accessible, and more complete than ever before, so that you can enjoy more of the moments you love. That's what it means to live meaningfully, to live joyfully, to live fully with Atrium Health.
Nobody was happy with how the Panthers' opening preseason game went overall, but also nobody is hitting the panic button, as the overall work and progress they've done in camp will pay off in the regular season. As advertised, Carolina's coaching staff is not going to show their hand in terms of scheme on either side of the ball. Quarterback Bryce Young got his first live action, and he didn't even mind his first quarterback hits as he gets ready for regular season football.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the game, of course. Football is a physical sport. You're going to get, it's part of the job description, you're going to get hit. And that's the game we play. So it's part of the job. You know that's coming. So for me, that's part of the game. It happens, and I'm just focused on the next play and trying to make sure I execute every time I get a chance to out there.
After Young, it was Matt Corral playing the rest of the way. He says they'll definitely look to improve upon their mistakes in this upcoming second preseason game.
We have a team mantra, and Luke Kuechly was just talking about us and talking to us, to the team, and one of the things that he said was just be honest with yourself. When you watch the film, what do you see? What could you do to get better? If you made a mistake, own it, fix it. And I think the guys are going to be taking that initiative.
I'm Jim Zoki on the Carolina Panthers Radio Network, presented by Morris Jenkins.
So we've got you talking, huh? WSIC News Talk Now. Be a part of the conversation.
I listen on the way to work.
Have your say.
It's more than just opinions, it's facts.
This is WSIC News Talk Now.
All right, everyone, welcome back yet again to another segment here on the Scoreboard today, 105.9, 100.7 FM. And if you'd like to call in, have something you'd like to talk about, 704-873-1400. We wrapped up all the NASCAR talk. I know, you're going to miss it. Me too. But there's other sports we need to talk about, like Major League Baseball, because they are, they're in the middle of a playoff race here. We got about 40 games left in the season for most teams. Here's a fun fact for you. We've noted how the Yankees have done nothing in the deadline and how they've been last in their division and now sitting at 6.5 games out of the playoffs. Well, the New York Yankees have 60 losses through 120 games for the first time since 1995. I think it's time as sports fans and as general baseball fans that we move on from thinking about the Yankees as the evil empire. Because they're no longer the evil empire. They haven't won in quite some time. The 2010s was the first time that the Yankees didn't win a World Series in a decade. They're no longer the evil empire. They aren't the team they once were. They aren't the organization they once were. Other teams are becoming more willing to spend money, more willing to make moves, more willing to change the inner workings of the franchise. Different coaches, different GMs. But the Yankees have stayed the same. They didn't make any changes in the offseason with personnel. They didn't make any trades, and now they sit 6.5 games out of the playoffs, out of a wild card, and are sitting at 500 for the first time through 120 games since 1995. And it's looking bleak for the Yankees. Doesn't help that they play the best team in baseball, which I think it's the best team in baseball, the Atlanta Braves. They lost to them last night, probably going to lose to them again and fall below 500. So we can all but rule out the Yankees from the playoffs. Does that mean we now have to rule out the Angels sitting at 8 games out? I think we're getting really close. 8 games to make up in 40 games or so. It's going to be an uphill battle. That's about all you can say about it because I don't believe it's going to happen. Now, the regular season, it's coming to a close here. We got some pennant races going on. Tampa Bay 3 games out from Baltimore. Cleveland is now 4 games out from Minnesota. The Astros are closing in on the Texans. The Texas Rangers, 3.5 games out. Atlanta, like we said, they're winning the NL East. No question about it. The Cubs and the Reds, I'm so sorry to the Reds, still both sitting 3.5 games back of Milwaukee. And the Dodgers currently running away with the NL West. Remember early in the season, and I mean early in the season, like June, when Pittsburgh was atop the NL Central, and we were like, oh my goodness, why is Pittsburgh on top of the NL Central? And it goes to show you how long of a season it is. They're now 11.5 games out of the lead behind Milwaukee, and they're in last place in the NL Central. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to see somebody collapse like this who's currently in the playoffs as we get closer to the end of the regular season, but it is possible. 40 games is still a long way to go. If any of these teams have a 4, 5, 6, 7 game losing streak coming up where they're in a wild card race, it could have drastic impacts to what they're trying to do. Because a 7-game losing streak, let's say your opponent goes 5-2. That's 5 games they just gained on you. And for the most part, it's hard to gain 5 games in a week. Almost impossible to gain that much. Considering you barely play 5 games in a week nowadays, but it can happen. So nobody is safe yet. The only team, I'm going to put 2 teams in as safe. Dodgers and the Braves. Those are the only 2 teams where I am confident that they are going to win their division and be in the playoffs just fine, no issue. Thank you very much. Now, all these other division leaders, like, yeah, they'll probably make the playoffs, but are they going to win their division? I don't know. 3.5 games isn't a lot. It's tough. But you could see a late push from Tampa. You could see a late push from Cleveland. Really, any of these teams that are still within 5 games or so. So Seattle in the AL is the first team out of the wild card, followed by Boston. They are 2 and 3 games out, respectively. Then we got the Yankees at 6.5, the Angels at 8, and Cleveland at 8.5. They have a better chance at catching Minnesota for the division lead rather than making a wild card. In the NL, Miami still holding on to that final wild card spot, followed by the Cubs and Reds 1 game out, Arizona 2.5 out, San Diego 5.5 out. And San Diego, they've been having a good stretch here recently. I don't know if they're going to be able to make this late push, but they're a team to watch going into the end of the season here. Everybody else, not mathematically, but for all intents and purposes, eliminated. There's no way you're going to make up 9 games. No, it's just not going to happen. Which is why I think it's time to call out the Angels and say, hey, knock, knock, knock. What in the world were you thinking at the deadline? You're going to lose Ohtani for nothing now. And that's what's going to happen. Got a couple of comments here. Late push from Detroit. You know, I didn't want to really say anything because I was going to wait for them to make a real push. But Detroit 8 games back of the AL Central. Who saw that coming? Not me. head to our last break of the day here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the NFL. And so we have a game tomorrow night, preseason game. We had Hard Knocks, and we'll preview the Panthers preseason game as well. So stay tuned here on the Scoreboard, WSIC 105.9, 100.7 FM, 704-873-1400. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this.
If you have an upcoming event, let WSIC spread the word. Go to WSICnews.com and click on the Community Calendar button. WSIC, proud to be part of your community.
Here is your WSIC Community Calendar. Asheville native Kanan Cox is performing Friday, August 25th at Kane Center for the Arts. Get your tickets while they last. Show starts at 8 p.m. Visit canearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. Want to showcase your music skills? Richard's Coffee Shop and Military Museum in downtown Mooresville has their music jam sessions every Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to noon. Richard's Coffee Shop, located in downtown Mooresville. For more info, visit welcomevets.com. Ever dreamed of seeing Freddie Mercury and Queen live? Absolute Queen, a Queen tribute, will be playing at Boatyard Eats in Cornelius Friday, August 18th. Tickets are $20 online. Enjoy live music and at a fun venue. Absolute Queen, Friday night at Boatyard Eats in Cornelius. To buy tickets, visit boatyardlkn.com. Ever wonder what Mooresville was like in 1873? The historic downtown walking tour is a self-guided tour that will take you on a stroll through Mooresville's past to learn about the history of the town. Featuring 18 stops, the tour begins and ends at the corner of Main Street and Center Avenue. It should take 1 hour to complete. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. What would it be like to play glow stick bingo? Come check out the Bingo Glow Party at the Statesville Civic Center. Tuesday, August 22nd, doors open at 6 p.m. All games will be played under blacklight. Glow stick bingo at the Statesville Civic Center. For more info, visit civiccenter.statesvillenc.net. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
I'm Dan Sutton with your WSIC forecast. For tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 66 and light northeast wind. Thursday, sunny with a high near 88 and southwest winds 5 to 8 miles per hour in the afternoon. Thursday night, mostly clear with a low around 66 and southwest winds around 6 miles per hour. Friday, sunny with a high near 88 and northwest wind.
Black Powder Coffee is celebrating their 10th anniversary with a medium dark roast blend of Indonesian and South American coffee beans. Enjoy the full-bodied natural flavor notes of chocolate with a bright finish. Get Black Powder Coffee's new anniversary blend today at Black Powder Coffee, 261 Rolling Hill Road, Mooresville, or participating retailers everywhere. Black Powder Coffee.
Conversations that matter.
I gotta tell you, I'm afraid to even think about the next presidential election.
Led by you.
It's a mockery of American politics.
This is WSIC News Talk Now.
All right, final segment here today on the Scoreboard with me, your favorite host, Joe Berg. We got a little bit of breaking news here out of the MLB. We'll get to that. But as always, if there's something you want to talk about, 704-873-1400. Got about 10 minutes or so before we close up shop for the day. So let's not waste any time. Let's go ahead and get right into this. All right, Jeff Passan, MLB reporter for ESPN. Tampa Bay shortstop Wander Franco is being investigated by Dominican authorities in a division that focuses on minors/gender violence, and a judge who's a child abuse specialist are handling the case. This is per the AP. So it seems like he is being investigated for some sort of inappropriate relationship. We'll see what happens with that. I don't want to talk too much about it because, well, we don't know what's going on yet. I don't think it's going to go good for Wander Franco if this is now being investigated after some social media leaks. It could end up being pretty serious, and if he is convicted or found guilty of whatever it is he's accused of, and if you want to look up the details, go for it. Just look up Wander Franco and his suspension, or he's not technically suspended right now. He's on a restricted list, so at this point, I don't think this is going to be resolved by time the Rays go back home. So I'm assuming what's going to happen is his restricted list tenure is going to continue. They're not going to bring him back until this is all resolved, because this is some serious stuff. So it is not clear if Wander Franco has an attorney who could speak on his behalf. They haven't been able to get any comment from him, but while the teams are not required to pay players who are on restricted lists, the Rays are continuing to pay Franco his $2 million salary. Let's see. So, if this is true, I hope that the Rays act accordingly and release him completely. And I hope that he never sees the field again, if it's true. But let's wait, see what these investigations and what these prosecutors find out, and we'll go from there, because there's really not that much to say about it until we know exactly what's going on. But just an update for you, he is being investigated. So we'll keep you updated on that. All right. The NFL. Preseason. Yay. Everybody jump up and down and cheer. Yay. Preseason. I don't think anybody wants to watch preseason. I don't. Because it's not, it means nothing to a fan. You know, it means the world to the players and the coaches because they're trying to make a roster. But for a fan, unless you're just so dedicated that you need to know who the third string nickel cornerback is going to be, it really isn't the most entertaining thing in the world. But nonetheless, we still do have a game tomorrow. Cleveland Browns, Philadelphia Eagles. The Browns playing their third preseason game, yes, in week 2, because they were part of the Hall of Fame game, and the Eagles, who lost their first preseason game. I don't know if we're going to see Jalen Hurts. I don't know if we're going to see Deshaun Watson. I would think we will a little bit this week because Deshaun Watson did not play a whole season after the suspension that he had for other things that I don't really want to talk about right now because it's in the past. But that's what we have tonight. I don't expect any starters. I'd be surprised, but don't expect it. Maybe the third preseason week, fourth game technically for the Browns. Maybe then we'll see a bunch of starters for a little bit, but I still don't expect them to put too many people out there who might get injured. So, Panthers take on the Giants on Friday. That game starting at 7:00. And this is just your reminder that on Friday, if you tune into WSIC, you will not see me. You will not hear me. You'll hear Panthers pregame. for 7 o'clock game, so they are on an hour early, and we'll have the pregame for the Panthers preseason game against the Giants on Friday. But they take on the Giants. Hopefully, Bryce Young has a little bit better outing. I expect to see him a little bit more than we saw him against the Jets. And it was weird how much he played against the Jets. Just because there were 2 pretty long drives, and we saw him in the second quarter, but he didn't do too much. So maybe this is the week where they leave Bryce Young out there and say, hey, kid, show us what you can do. You're going to get a quarter and a half. You're going to get 2 quarters. You're going to get 4 drives. I would expect to see him more this week than we did last week because it's time. It's time to start getting prepared for the season. And it used to be the 3rd preseason game was the quote-unquote dress rehearsal. But now it seems to be the 2nd preseason game, especially for the rookies. Now this weekend, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of rookies playing, specifically Anthony Richardson, who was named the starter for the Colts this year. They'll be taking on the Bears on Saturday, that game at 7 o'clock. Make sure you tune into that one. That's going to be a good one because you got 2 young quarterbacks. They're probably going to play early in the game because, for one, they're young and they could use the extra repetition considering the Bears were the worst team in the league last year. And then, obviously, we'll see C.J. Stroud play for the Texans this weekend. All the rookie quarterbacks are going to be playing. They are. Now, your veteran quarterbacks, no. Keep them out. Don't let Rodgers play this weekend. I don't care that he hasn't played in the first 2 games. Don't let Rodgers play. Joe Burrow's still hurt, but don't let him play. Don't put Patrick Mahomes out there. Don't put Josh Allen out there. Keep them healthy. Let the young guys play and learn the league and figure it out. I've been watching Hard Knocks this year, and I have not yet finished the 2nd episode. I'm in the middle of it. But I thought it was really cool to see a couple of things. Number one, the magician or the mentalist, I think they called it, that came in to talk to the Jets. I watched him turn that deck of cards into a fish like 5 times, and I could not figure it out. Like, how? That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And it was apparently the craziest thing the players have ever seen because judging from their reaction, they were shocked. I was shocked. I was like, that he just handed him a deck of cards, and now it's a fish. Huh? It was some crazy stuff. But the best part, besides all the fun stuff that they do, it was pretty cool to see Rodgers talking to his center about the snaps. Like, hey, do not spiral the snap. Just toss it back to me and I'll catch it. You saw the frustration with the offensive line. And Rodgers has gone on to comment today saying that he has no concern with the offensive line. This was going to be... Anything that comes out of Hard Knocks is going to be a story for like a day. Oh, Rodgers is frustrated with the offensive line. Maybe he's not happy in New York anymore. Come on. He says there's no concern. He says, hey, it's August 16th. We got time. And, yeah. Why are we overreacting? It's like people just need something to react to when it comes to the NFL. Like, we're craving a news story. So anytime you see frustration, you're just like, hey, that's the news story. Rodgers is frustrated with the offensive line. They stink. He's going to get sacked 50 times this year, and they're going to be bad. Well, let's calm down. It's preseason. They got to get it figured out. New quarterback. I think they'll be fine. I love seeing this overreaction to the littlest of things, to the point where Rodgers had to comment on it today. Like, come on. You know I don't overreact to anything, ever. I'm not dramatic. Thank you for tuning in today to the Scoreboard with me, your host, Joe Berg, every day from 6 to 7 p.m., except for this Friday, because you're going to hear the Panthers preseason game. We'll be back tomorrow with our Panther preview. And in the morning, we'll be back with our live shows. Justin Kasepis starting the day off. Good morning, LKN. Make sure you call in. Tell him to find some better sources so that he can talk to me a little bit more knowledgeable about sports. We'll see you tomorrow here on WSIC. Have a good one, everyone.
The new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC, Statesville, Mooresville, North Charlotte.